Most people believe they are rational. We trust our intellect. We trust our logic. We trust the stories we tell ourselves about why we act the way we do. But beneath the surface of every human being lives something far older than reason: emotion, ancient, instinctive, reactive. And unless we learn to understand it, we spend our lives unknowingly governed by forces we cannot see. In The Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene explores the hidden architecture beneath human behavior, the unconscious drives, the social masks, the emotional patterns, the invisible instincts shaping our choices every day. But this journey is not about becoming cynical. It is not about manipulating people. It is about something far more important: liberation. Because the moment you begin to understand human nature, you stop becoming a prisoner to it. We like to believe we are the authors of our thoughts. But if we are honest with ourselves, most of our decisions are not born from clear reason. They are born inside emotional weather. Robert Greene reminds us that human beings evolved long before logic, long before language. Our ancestors survived through instant reactions: fear, anger, desire, suspicion. And that ancient biology still lives inside us. When anxiety enters the mind, we suddenly interpret the world through anxiety. When insecurity takes hold, we begin seeing insults where none exist. When anger rises, the world transforms into a battlefield. We mistake the intensity of our emotions for the truth of reality. And this is where human nature becomes dangerous. Because if you react automatically to every emotional wave, you are no longer conscious. You are programmed. The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl captured this truth in one timeless observation. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Self-mastery begins the moment you enter that space. The moment you decide, "I will not immediately react. I will not surrender my mind to the first emotional impulse. Instead, I will observe. I will let the storm pass through me without allowing it to drive me." When you combine Greene's psychological awareness with Frankl's discipline of conscious choice, you achieve something rare: internal sovereignty. The fog begins to clear, and for the first time, you consciously choose who you are becoming. Every day, we step into a social theater, a world of masks, performances, carefully managed identities. We encounter the colleague whose confidence feels rehearsed, the friend whose kindness hides resentment, the leader whose authority masks deep insecurity. Robert Greene argues that human beings are natural social chameleons. Because we desperately want acceptance, we learn to hide our fears, our wounds, and our insecurities behind curated versions of ourselves. Carl Jung called this mask the persona, the face we present to the world. And while the persona helps society function, problems begin the moment we mistake the mask for the person beneath it. Most people react emotionally to the performances of others. Someone becomes defensive, so we become defensive. Someone projects their insecurity, and we absorb it personally. The cycle continues. But self-mastery offers another path: compassionate detachment. When you understand human nature deeply, you stop reacting to people's masks with anger. You begin reading them differently. The louder the arrogance, the deeper the insecurity. The greater the aggression, the greater the fear hiding underneath. Suddenly, you stop taking every behavior personally. You stop fighting the performance. And instead, you quietly observe the wounded human being beneath the costume. This changes everything. You preserve your peace. You avoid unnecessary conflict. and you move through the social world with calm psychological distance, not coldness, clarity. None of us choose the instincts we inherit. Human beings are born carrying ancient emotional shadows: fear, anger, envy, resentment. Millions of years of survival shaped these impulses into our nervous systems. And for many people, those impulses become destiny. They surrender to bitterness, to reactivity, to emotional chaos. But beneath biology lies something stronger: choice. Viktor Frankl discovered this truth in the darkest conditions imaginable. Everything can be taken from a human being except one thing: the freedom to choose one's attitude in any circumstance. This is the great act of psychological defiance. Self-mastery is not the absence of darkness. It is the decision, made repeatedly, to refuse letting darkness become identity. Inner peace is not passive. It is a conscious agreement, a quiet declaration that says, "I acknowledge the shadow, but I will not become it." Your instincts may write the first draft of your emotions, but your spirit still holds the final pen. There is a strange force that emerges whenever human beings gather in groups. Inside crowds, people change. Emotions spread rapidly. Reason weakens. Individual thought dissolves into collective reaction. Robert Greene warns us about this tribal vortex. Inside groups, our desire to belong becomes stronger than our desire to think clearly. We begin mirroring the emotional temperature around us. We absorb outrage, fear, division, suspicion, and slowly we surrender our individuality to the psychology of the crowd. The philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson understood this battle deeply. He wrote, "It is easy in the world to live after the world's opinion. It is easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man is he who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude." That independence is rare, especially now. Modern life constantly pressures us to react, to choose sides, to join emotional storms. But true sovereignty requires psychological boundaries. You learn to observe collective chaos without allowing it to invade your inner world. You stop feeding outrage with outrage. You remain grounded, steady, clear. And while the world spins faster around you, you quietly refuse to lose yourself inside the noise. Have you ever noticed how human beings repeat the same emotional patterns over and over again? The same fears, the same destructive habits, the same toxic relationships. We promise ourselves change, yet somehow we return to the same internal loops. Robert Greene explains that beneath our conscious intentions lies something deeper: character. A psychological blueprint formed early in life through repetition, environment, and emotional conditioning. Without awareness, we spend years unconsciously replaying the past. We confuse repetition with fate. But a loop is only a circle until you choose to draw a new line. Dr. Joseph Murphy believed the subconscious mind functions like a recording device. It simply reproduces the instructions repeatedly impressed upon it. And this is where transformation becomes possible. Because once you become conscious of the pattern, you interrupt the automation. You stop feeding the old script. You begin deliberately impressing a different internal instruction: strength, calm, composure, peace. Slowly, the old track loses power. And instead of becoming a prisoner to conditioning, you become the conscious architect of your inner world. Human beings are constantly navigating invisible hierarchies: offices, social circles, communities, institutions. Everywhere, people compete for position, recognition, and control. Robert Greene exposes how fragile much of this authority truly is. The loudest displays of power often conceal the deepest insecurity. People who constantly dominate, manipulate, or intimidate others are usually terrified of their own powerlessness. And the moment we emotionally react to these games, we surrender our peace to someone else's insecurity. But true influence operates differently. Behavioral psychologist Robert Cialdini spent decades studying persuasion and human behavior. His work revealed something profound. Lasting influence is never forced. It is cultivated through trust, consistency, respect, shared value. When you combine Greene's understanding of social power with Cialdini's ethical principles of influence, you stop chasing dominance. Instead, you build presence. You stop performing authority and quietly develop the kind of grounded competence that no external politics can shake. Because power over others is temporary, but mastery over yourself is permanent sovereignty. Most human suffering comes from living too close to the immediate moment. We become trapped inside temporary setbacks, minor conflicts, daily outrage, short-term fear. Robert Greene calls us to something larger, the long view. The ability to step back and recognize that every storm, every crisis, and every emotional upheaval is only a small fragment of a much larger human story. When your perspective widens, your panic weakens. The immediate moment loses its tyranny over the mind. But even when we understand this intellectually, our nervous systems still try to pull us back into hesitation. We did not study human nature today to become cynical. We did not explore emotional shadows, social masks, or unconscious behavior in order to judge humanity. We explored these depths for one reason: freedom. Because awareness changes everything. The moment you understand your emotional patterns, you stop becoming enslaved by them. The moment you recognize the social theater, you stop reacting automatically to every performance. The moment you acknowledge your shadow, you reclaim the ability to consciously choose your direction. As Viktor Frankl reminded us, the final freedom always remains within. The freedom to choose your response. Inner peace is not a finish line. It is a daily practice, a quiet agreement renewed each morning before the world enters your mind. It is the sovereignty of a person who understands the chaos of human nature without surrendering to it. Clear the fog, drop the mask, observe the shadow, and step into the freedom of your own mastered nature.